Welcome back, food lovers. New York City is famous for its incredible dining scene, but today, we're taking you on a different kind of culinary tour. From overrated eateries to downright disappointing dives, we're counting down the top 10 restaurants in NYC that you might want to avoid. Stick around, you don't want to miss this.
New York City, they call it the city that never sleeps, probably because the kitchens are working overtime pumping out absolute rubbish. Forget the Michelin stars and fancy food bloggers. We're calling out the imposters, the has-beens, and the downright disgraceful excuses for restaurants. Get ready for a wild ride through the culinary minefield that is New York City. And trust me, you'll be reaching for the antacids by the end of this. Right, let's get this dumpster fire started with a place that's about as Michelin-starred as my granny's underpants. You walk in expecting a symphony of flavor, a culinary orgasm that'll have you singing from the rooftops. Instead, you get a plate of food so small it wouldn't satisfy a sparrow, and service so pretentious it'll make you want to shove the breadsticks where the sun don't shine. The portions are microscopic, like they're trying to win awards for the world's thinnest slice of beef. Listen, you're better off flushing your money down the toilet. At least you'll get some entertainment value out of that. Next up, we've got a real tragedy on our hands. This place used to be an institution, a New York City legend, churning out pizzas so good they'd make you weep with joy. Now, it's about as inspiring as a wet dishcloth. The crust, once a thing of beauty, crispy on the outside, chewy on the inside, is now a soggy, flavorless mess. What happened to this place? Did they fire the entire kitchen staff and replace them with a bunch of chimpanzees with pizza cutters? Avoid it like the plague, unless you want to experience the culinary equivalent of a bad breakup. Now, we all know that fresh seafood is a beautiful thing, but this place, this culinary crime scene, wouldn't know fresh seafood if it jumped out of the bloody ocean and slapped them across the face. The fish, which should be flaky, moist and bursting with flavor, is drier than a popcorn fart in the Sahara Desert. Overcooked, rubbery and smelling like it's been sitting out in the sun for a week. It's an absolute disgrace, and frankly, I wouldn't feed this slop to my dog. With so many incredible seafood restaurants in this city, there's no excuse for serving up this kind of garbage.
Listen, I've got nothing against vegan food. Some of it can be bloody delicious. But this place, oh dear Lord, this place is taking the proverbial biscuit. It's like they've taken all the joy out of plant-based eating and replaced it with pretentiousness and a hefty dose of disappointment.
The portions are so small you'd need a microscope to find them on the plate.
And the flavors? Don't even get me started on the flavors. Bland, boring, and utterly uninspired.
And the price? You'll be forking out more money than a Wall Street banker on a bender, and for what? A plate of food that'll leave you feeling more unsatisfied than a vegetarian at a sausage fest? Brunch, the most important meal of the week for those who like to sleep in and pretend they're living the high life. But this place, this absolute zoo, takes the bloody biscuit. It's like trying to enjoy a leisurely meal in the middle of a mosh pit with overpriced mimosas and food that's as underwhelming as a wet weekend in Bognor Regis. First, you've got to navigate the queue. A sea of hungover hipsters all vying for a table, all pretending they're not absolutely dying for a caffeine fix. From the food, soggy waffles, burnt bacon and eggs that are so overcooked, they're practically bouncing off the walls. Now, I love a good greasy spoon as much as the next bloke, but this place, this overpriced caricature of a classic American diner, takes the proverbial biscuit. They've got the checkered floors, the red vinyl booths, and a menu full of diner staples. But that's where the resemblance ends, because, my friends, this ain't your mama's diner. The portions are minuscule, the coffee's colder than a penguin's backside, and the service is about as welcoming as a tax audit. And don't even get me started on the prices. You'll be paying a king's ransom for a plate of food that's barely fit for a pauper. Chapter 7. The chain that should have stayed suburban. Listen, we've all got our guilty pleasures, those chain restaurants that we secretly love to hate, but this one, this culinary abomination, should have stayed in the suburbs where it belongs. The food is bland, the service is robotic, and the atmosphere is about as exciting as a tax audit. It's like eating in a beige box surrounded by people who've lost all hope in their lives. Avoid it like the plague, unless you want your taste buds to commit suicide out of sheer boredom. Right, let's talk about celebrity chefs, those culinary rock stars who grace our television screens and cookbook shelves. These are the individuals who have turned cooking into a form of entertainment, captivating audiences with their charisma and culinary skills. They make it look so easy, whipping up gourmet dishes in a matter of minutes, all while keeping us entertained with their witty banter and charming personalities. We worship them, we idolize them, we hand over our hard-earned cash to eat at their restaurants. We buy their cookbooks, hoping to recreate a bit of that magic in our own kitchens. We watch their shows religiously, dreaming of the day we might get to taste one of their creations in person. It's a culinary pilgrimage of sorts, a chance to experience the genius of a master chef firsthand. But sometimes, just sometimes, the reality doesn't live up to the hype. You walk into the restaurant with high expectations, your mouth watering in anticipation of the culinary delights to come. But then the food arrives and it's underwhelming. The flavors are flat, the presentation is lackluster, and you can't help but feel a pang of disappointment. This, my friends, is one of those times. A moment when the dream shatters and you're left wondering what went wrong. How could a chef of such renown serve something so mediocre? It's a bitter pill to swallow, especially when you've invested so much hope and money into the experience. A restaurant headed by a chef so famous, his name is practically synonymous with culinary genius. You'd expect nothing but the best, a meal that would leave you raving for days. But instead, you're met with disappointment. The chef's reputation precedes him, but it seems the quality of the food doesn't quite match up. But don't be fooled by the hype, because this place is about as impressive as a wet paper bag. The dishes are uninspired, the flavors are bland, and the overall experience is far from what you'd expect from a restaurant of this caliber. It's a stark reminder that not everything that glitters is gold. The food is bland, the service is pretentious, and the prices are astronomical. You feel like you're paying for the name rather than the quality of the meal. The waitstaff act as if they're doing you a favor by serving you, and the whole experience feels more like a chore than a pleasure. It's like they're relying on the chef's name to carry the weight, rather than actually serving up decent food. The restaurant's reputation is built on the chef's fame, but fame alone can't make up for a lackluster dining experience. It's a harsh reality, but one that many diners have had to face. It's a classic case of style over substance, a culinary con job that'll leave you feeling ripped off and thoroughly underwhelmed. The decor might be stunning, the ambience might be perfect, but if the food doesn't deliver, it's all for naught. You leave the restaurant feeling cheated, wondering how such a renowned chef could let you down so badly.
I was expecting a culinary masterpiece, but what I got was a disaster. The anticipation, the excitement, all of it was for nothing. It's a lesson learned the hard way. Sometimes, even the most celebrated chefs can disappoint.
Instagram, the land of filtered perfection, where food looks too good to eat and everyone's a culinary photographer. It's a place where every meal is a masterpiece, every dish a work of art, and every bite is supposed to be a taste of heaven. But sometimes, just sometimes, the reality doesn't quite live up to the hype. You see, behind those perfectly staged photos and clever captions, there can be a different story. This, my friends, is one of those times. A place where the allure of social media fame overshadows the actual dining experience. A restaurant that's more famous for its Instagram feed than its actual food. It's a hot spot for influencers and food bloggers, but for the average diner, it can be a letdown. They've got the rainbow bagels, the unicorn lattes, the kind of food that screams, "Take a picture of me," the avocado toast piled high with edible flowers. All the ingredients for a perfect Instagram post, but sadly not much else. The food is bland, the service is slow, and the overall experience leaves much to be desired. And let's not forget the prices. They're exorbitant. You're paying a premium for the aesthetics, not the taste. You're paying for the privilege of taking a photo, not for the pleasure of eating a decent meal. It's a place where the camera eats first and your taste buds come second.
I mean, sure, the food looks amazing on my feed, but that's where the magic ends. The taste? Meh. It's a classic case of style over substance, where the visual appeal is prioritized over the actual flavor. So next time you're tempted by those drool-worthy photos, remember, not everything that glitters is gold.
And finally, we come to the bottom of the barrel, the absolute pits, the culinary equivalent of a kick in the knackers. This place is the epitome of everything that can go wrong in the dining world. It's not just bad, it's a disaster on a plate. This, my friends, is a tourist trap of epic proportions, a place that preys on unsuspecting visitors with the promise of authentic New York cuisine. They lure you in with flashy signs and promises of a true New York experience, but what you get is far from it. But don't be fooled, because what you'll actually get is a plate of reheated slop that's about as authentic as a plastic Statue of Liberty. The food looks like it was made days ago and just microwaved before being served. It's a travesty to call it cuisine. The food is bland, the service is surly, and the prices are enough to make your wallet cry. Imagine paying top dollar for something that tastes worse than a frozen dinner. The waitstaff act like they're doing you a favor by even acknowledging your presence. It's like they've taken all the worst aspects of New York City, the crowds, the noise, the overpriced everything, and distilled it into a single, unholy dining experience. The atmosphere is chaotic and you can barely hear yourself think over the din of other disappointed diners.
I was so excited to try what I thought would be real New York cuisine, but what a mistake. I had high hopes, thinking I'd get a taste of the city's rich culinary history, but I was sorely disappointed. The food was terrible and the service was even worse. It felt like they didn't care at all about the quality of the food or the experience of their customers. It was as if they knew we were tourists and figured they'd never see us again, so why bother? It's like they know tourists will pay anything for the authentic experience, but there's nothing authentic about it. They exploit the fact that people come from all over the world, eager to try New York's famous food scene, only to be met with mediocrity at best. It's a scam, plain and simple.
New York City is full of amazing places to eat, but not every spot lives up to its reputation. We hope this list helps you navigate the dining scene and avoid a few letdowns along the way. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more insider tips on where to eat and what to skip. See you next time, foodies.
So there you have it, folks, 10 NYC restaurants that deserve a Michelin star for being absolutely shite. Step up your game, get rid of these culinary criminals, and start serving up food that's worthy of this great city. Until next time, keep it classy, New York.